this very unique opportunity to bring someone who has one foot in both worlds, but a heart for libraries, to us to help us get a better idea of what those folks want, how we can talk to them, how we can what they need, how we can relate to them, and maybe build that relationship so that when the challenges come up, we have an ally, or we can at least know how to talk to them. So Jay is here to start this process today. Well, actually, the process has already started. So this is the next step 2. But I want to remind you too that he's on call. You know, you can call him for help anytime. And don't forget that that is what he is here for. So if today is an introduction for you, for Jay, to get to know him, it'll make it easier to call him for you, or for you to recommend that somebody else that you know call him for advice. Please do that. But this is step 2, and I'm going to turn it over to Jay. And thank you so much.
And he enters to rousing applause. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't wait to get to you all. I was so excited about this. And we're doing a tour across Kentucky. Today's the first day. We're going to be in Marshall County tomorrow, and then Far East next week, and then Madison County. So you guys are the first and the best. All right? And we got that on film, didn't we? Oh, yeah. So my question is, how are you all doing today? I mean, really, how are you all doing? Everybody okay? It's a good day? Yeah, cooler, yeah, the weather broke. Let me just expand upon what Jean just said. I'm here for you, okay? And this day is for you. This time is for you, and all of what we're trying to do is for you. Because Lisa Rice, in her infinite wisdom, a year ago, said, you know, the number one thing that we need is for somebody to come in and help directors and staff and key library folks understand the mind of an elected official, local elected official, which is what I was. I'm a recovering politician, you all. I served 4 terms as a district city council member in Lexington with a constituency of about 30,000, and then in a city of about 350,000. And as was mentioned, my mom is a librarian. I grew up in a librarian's home. She was an elementary school librarian her whole career, and all I ever heard was, nobody appreciates the library, right? You get a lot of that? Nobody appreciates it. Well, this guy does, okay? I love librarians. And you all did not get into this profession to make a ton of money or to be political. You're not going to make a lot of money, but you are going to have to navigate politics. I'm sorry. It's the world that we live in. But I'm here to take the sting off of that and the stink out of it, and to help you make sense of some of this so that you can be very effective in your job, okay? So here's how this is going to work. Today I'm just going to roll you through some stuff to get you exposed to what's going on out there that we're all kind of wrestling with, but in your communities, this is what's happening. You're dealing with it, your elected leaders are, your community leaders are. It's just, here's what's happening today. And then I'm going to give you what a politician or elected official, how they think, okay? Because they think very differently than you think they think. And it's crazy in many ways, but once you understand it, you can start to navigate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend just a little bit of time throughout this process of having you write some stuff down. So if you don't have something to write on, you might want to bum some sheets of paper from somebody, from Courtney or someone, because I just want to give you a little muscle memory. I want to give you some ideas of where to go. But here's the best part of the whole thing. I want you to write down what's important to you as we go, but Jean is going to send you an email after this is over with that has all the notes. Everything you see, you're going to get. So you're not going to miss anything, but I do want you to write down some of the stuff that matters to you, or you think, I hadn't thought about it that way. Okay? Fair enough? All right, so let's roll. It says you should never look down on a day of small beginnings. I'm going to try and stand as still as possible, which is not easy.
No big deal.
It said you should never look down on a day of small beginnings. And today may be the small beginning that's going to change it all for you. Today may be a day that you see that you can leave a lasting legacy, or you could go to another level personally or professionally, or truly have impact and change the world the way that you want to. That's what we're going to do in our time together, okay? And so I want you to take our time as the gift it's actually meant to be. A gift to get a time to think, frankly. Because we're all doers and we get stuff done, or else you wouldn't be in this room. But you don't ever get a chance to think, like, why do people act the way they do? Why is it the way it is? And that's what we're going to do. There's a lot of people back home looking to you and me for answers on how in the world do we navigate the times that we're in. Because they're super challenging right now. Super challenging. The problem is most people have become super skeptical of who they can trust with information. Who do I actually lean into? Who isn't trying to work an angle on me or take something from me? Or is it just feed me a bunch of stuff that isn't real or accurate, right? So I want to thank you guys for giving me the privilege of a few minutes of your time today to step into that role and be someone that you hopefully can trust. And here's what the deal is. Going forward from today, this is kind of my audition to you all right? Going forward from today, I am on call, if you will. It's part of what we've agreed upon to be there for you. So if there's a question that you've got, like, I just do not understand this, or we've got this meeting coming up, or whatever, the bat phone is open. That's our internal language about it. But the bat phone is open, but I want you to meet the guy that you're going to be talking to or Zooming with. Okay? All right, so here we go. Before you ever take a training, before you ever sit for a class, you should demand of your trainer, your speaker, to abide by this formula. C minus C equals C. And you have no idea what that means. So let me tell you what it means. Content minus context equals total confusion. If you don't know why you're sitting here, or you don't know why this is important, it might just confuse you. And I don't want to do that to you. So let me tell you why behind this. Here is the context for what we're doing. The volume of our time is getting turned up. The noise of our time is getting turned up, and people are not listening. They don't hear what you're saying often. You've got a lot of really good things to say, especially about your library, and nobody's paying attention because the noise is so loud in our culture today because of many, many factors, okay? But the noise to your elected officials is huge. They're not listening because there's so much noise coming at them from many, many places, all right? Part of what today is going to be is you stepping into their world and looking around going, this is a foreign place, but at least you're going to see what it looks like. The noise to these folks, whoever they are in your all space, is very loud, and it's very hard to hear, okay? So how do we position a library as the true community asset that we all know it is? We know it's a great community asset, but how do we position it to these folks who may or may not have any attention spans and are listening, or only listen when there's something going wrong, okay? So that's our job, is today just to kind of work through this and get you to a place where you can start seeing new ways to position this amazing asset in the way it should be positioned, but in the context of not a lot of people are hearing things. All right, what I want you to do is not be Fortress Library. Do you feel like that sometimes? Where you just got the walls up and you hope that they don't come besieging the walls, right? This is where many, many libraries across the country have gotten to. Is just, we're going to fortify, we're going to lock it down, and you can't get in, and arms up. I'm telling you, that is not a strategy you can win. Because you don't make money. You don't make money. You are given taxpayer money in some form or fashion to run and operate. And the people who control the money can tear those walls down. If you decide to go walls up, it may work for a little while, but ultimately it is a losing strategy. So don't do that. Don't beat yourself up. Don't hide behind the walls. You've got too much good to share. And I want you to hear that. You've got too much good to share to get into a besieged position, okay? So what I want is collaboration for you guys versus confrontation, okay? Because that's just not a fight you want to be in. It's just no fun. And everybody loses, especially in your community. So as we start this, let's talk about what we're going to do today. I want to make it super simple on you so you can just kick back and enjoy. So here's our agenda. Literally, I'm going to give you one phrase that if you can just remember the one phrase today, you're going to be magnificent going out of here. You're going to be so good if you can just remember one phrase. Everything we talk about rolls up to it. But we're specifically going to look at the 3 headwinds that are kind of bashing against you and your community and your elected leaders that are really causing you not to succeed right now. There are 3 headwinds right now that are really challenging us. We're going to look at those and how to navigate them. And then lastly, I'm going to try and give you the mind of a local official. How do they actually think? What's going through their mind, and how do you get into that space in a positive way? Okay? And they see you in a different light. So, last thing is I'm going to give you some ideas and a roadmap that you can walk out of here with today that you can actually use and to build those relationships and those bridges. Okay, here's the one phrase for success. Please write this down because it's kind of what everything rolls up to. Connection versus perfection. Connection versus perfection. If you can remember that, you're golden. Perfection has to do with me and my world and my stuff. How do I look? How do I sound? Is my font good? Do my colors look good on my slideshow? You know, it's about me. Perfection has to do with me. And what's interesting is, if I was to ask you what a perfect presentation, let's say a perfect pitch or presentation to your fiscal court, okay? What would that actually look like in your mind's eye? Well, it might be that they were listening, that they thought, wow, these people really have some good stuff going on for us in our community. They were moved to the action you want them to, and maybe they talked positively after the meeting was over. What in the world does that have to do with the font on the PowerPoint? Or the color scheme on the PowerPoint? Okay? But we spend all this time putting together these wonderful presentations and thinking about how we look. Rather, what I want you to do is just think about who's sitting in the seat across from you. Okay? Perfection is about you, but connection is about positioning your library so that these guys and gals get it. They see what the value is across the table, what you're trying to say. But if you've got to obsess upon your audience versus upon yourself, okay? And this applies to anything. This isn't just elected officials. This is every single encounter you have. You have to think about who's in front of you. Okay, if it's all about bringing value to other people. I want you to get in the mindset of how are you bringing value in every encounter that you have with folks. Because that's the real deal. Interaction needs to bring value. Because this is a harsh phrase, but it's true. If you're not bringing value, you're taking up space. If I'm up here just speaking away about something that has nothing to do with you, and it has no value to you today, why the heck did you drive all the way over here for this? It's a waste of your time. So people sometimes don't see the value in what you're talking about because of the way it's presented or because of just the way that the prejudice maybe that they have coming into the meeting or whatever. So we want to try and knock some of that down, but the way we do that is by focusing on that. So I love this image and I want to burn it into your head. A man on the right, he is so thirsty, he's going to take anything wet that girl's offering, right? But what's interesting about the picture is she puts water ahead of milk in this situation. She could have offered him both, let him make a choice. She could have put milk out in front. Maybe she's a salesperson, she could have made more money off the sale of milk, right? But in this situation, she knows this guy benefits more from water than he does from milk. She knows what he values most in this situation. Do you know what your audience needs most from you? And especially as it relates to when you're encountering elected officials. What is it they need most from you? What is most valuable that you can offer them, and how do you put it forward? So I just want to burn the image into your head. Okay, so what we want to try and constantly do is how do we bring value to elected leaders? How do we think about them in a different light? So I want you to just take a very quick minute, and this is what I want to do. Will you just jot down whatever comes into your mind? What are up to 5 ways? Maybe you only get 3, it's fine. But just put down ways that your library or you personally bring value to elected leaders. Okay? So just write down first thoughts that come to your mind. And I'm going to play a little travel music so it's not so awkwardly quiet in here while you do such things. Okay, nothing exhaustive, but let me just ask, give me some different ways that you all bring value to elected leaders. Audience participation part of the show, yes?
Inviting them to different events that we have. I'm with the Friends of the Library, so it's kind of an outside thing. It's not
Yeah.
librarian, but we invite them to everything that we're doing, keep them appraised, and let them know we're there.
Yeah, so the invitation to your events where they can have a knowledge of what's actually going on. Huge, yes. What else? What's another way you bring value to them? Yeah, King?
Quality of life improvements, that's a big issue in our county right now that you hear about the physical court. Where we play our role in that.
Yeah, so all the ways you bring, you add quality of life to the community as a whole. Huge, huge. What else?
Attend physical court meetings.
Actually attend the fiscal court meetings. Yeah, you know what? That's kind of cool to see somebody show up instead of just lobbing shots at me via email. Somebody that's actually there and they see that's going on. Yes, ma'am?
Attend the Board of Trustees meeting, so you know what's going on and they know what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? This side of the room is heavy with answers. Y'all need to pick it up.
Filling a community need. For our community, it's free meeting spaces. That doesn't exist
Yeah.
besides the library, so it's truly filling a need.
Yeah, filling a need where you have actual, hey, can come use our space. You don't have any space, you can use ours. Fantastic. Courtney, I want to call on you. How do you, what you've been so good about like Parks and Rec and so forth. You told me about some of the partnership you do there.
Well,
Share that.
We partner automatically with Parks and Rec. We joke and say we got married to them. So we share spaces, and so that increases our actual footprint without using fiscal money. And we also, it lets us be able to have larger events because we're sharing staff over the top. And you know, also fiscal Parks and Rec reports directly to fiscal court all the time, and so we don't, but we do if we're with Parks and Rec. So we get all the big celebratory events with them. Every little picture of a kid we put up for free camps and free outreach, and I mean those elected officials are like, look what we did.
Yeah. Take full credit for
They
that
love
stuff.
it. They love it.
Yeah. What else? What's another way that you all benefit? Yes?
We keep them in the loop with what's happening in the community. They don't always hear from everyone.
That is
We
so
kind of-
big. So big, you all. You guys have your finger on the pulse of the community in ways they don't. And that's huge for me as an elected official. I'm trying to know all these things. I got all this noise. But if I've got a partner where I can go to and say, tell me what's really happening with these guys. Yeah, that's excellent. Yes, ma'am.
We put a lot of things in the paper because they will read, and you know, then they get some. But anyway, that way they know, and it's amazing how many people will come up to you because we're a small town.
Yeah,
They want to know about this or that, so you can explain it.
excellent. One more. Yes, sir.
We have a lot of reference questions from elected officials.
A lot of reference questions from elected officials, yeah. I mean, my point to you is, as we just start out, just start doing this game right here. You bring a lot of value. The problem is not that you don't bring value. The problem is just a communication issue right now. It's just some words, y'all. We can get over words. We can figure words out. The problem is that you haven't figured out a good way to let them know that value in a consistent way where they will actually defend you and say, no, this is my partner. You know, I may not agree with you on this, or we may be sharply opposed in this, but that's still my partner. Don't talk bad about it, okay? That happens when you start realizing all the value and you let them know, and it's a two-way street. All right? So my goal, here's the deal. Anytime I work with any group, live or virtual, big group, one-on-one, my goal with you guys is just to help you become people and entities that know the times and know what to do. Think about that for a second. If you are seen as knowing the times, it means you got your finger on the pulse of my world. My world. What's going on with me? And if you know what to do, well, that's shorthand for you've got solutions to my problems. If you have solutions to my problems, if I see you as someone that has that solution, I'm going to invite you to the table every single time. And at the table, you'll have impact and influence, and in a word, you're relevant. But the opposite is true. If I see you as having no clue what's going on in my world, and you have no solutions to my problems, I view you as irrelevant. Fair or unfair, gang, that's what's happening in our culture today. We're all judging people and entities and communities as relevant or irrelevant, okay? So what I want to try and do is help you guys be seen as the most relevant players in the game. We know what's going on and we got solutions to problems, okay? That's all that's missing right now. I just want you to understand. All that's missing is that understanding of, hey, we're this. We know what's going on and we've got solutions to your problems. And in this case specifically, it's elected officials that we're talking about, okay? So let's talk about the times because they seem really super confusing, but I want to make them simple for you. All right, think of it as a storm that is upon us, okay? And it is a perfect storm of chaos. And it's made up of 3 headwinds. There are 3 headwinds in this storm. Every one of these headwinds, none of them individually has ever existed in our lifetime. No one on this planet has a roadmap of exactly what to do with a headwind like each one of the 3 I'm going to show you. First one is COVID. Pandemic. Nobody's ever tried to run libraries in a pandemic unless you got somebody from 1918 on your staff that you're hiding in the closet somewhere. Nobody knows what to do. How do you do a pandemic? We don't know. There's no rules. And if anybody tells you they know what they're talking about, they are lying. They don't know. They have no clue. Second thing is, this never happened, is we have the shortest attention spans in history. 8 seconds or less. And some of y'all got a lot less. I can see it. See it. But that means that you have to be more precise and concise in how you speak to people, communicate with people, because they don't have a window to hear it. Okay? It's small, it's short. If they don't see value in it quick, they rule you out. And then the last one, the big one, and everything really rolls up to this sucker. We got 5 separate generations now working side by side, more than any time in our history. And there's no roadmap of how to deal with that. But here's the best news of the day. By the time I'm done with you in our short time, you're going to know all of these. You're going to know how to navigate them. And you're going to have solutions to people's problems. You're going to be the most relevant players in the game. Aren't you glad you came? You all aren't nearly as excited about this as I am. Bye, guys. Man, that'll change. That'll change. All right. So remember, the key pieces of this is your fiscal court, your city council, whoever you're working with in that local elected world, they're trying to navigate these 3 things. They've never had to do government in a pandemic. They've got short attention spans. They've got multiple generations, okay? They are dealing with it as well. And I want you to always think about connection versus perfection. Think about them. All right, so how do we make this super simple where you can walk out of here and talk to anybody about it and just know this stuff cold? All right, let's start with the COVID effect. I mentioned I'm a recovering politician. Politicians all during COVID fell in love with one phrase. They say it over and over and over. That's me as a politician. They love saying, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Now, that is not an untrue statement. That is totally not an untrue statement. It's just not maybe the best way for you to understand it. A better way for you to grasp it is same storm, different boats. Globally. See, 9/11 was primarily a U.S. event, a North America event. If you're in Thailand at 9/11, it really didn't impact you very much. But the pandemic has hit everyone on the planet in some way, shape, or form. But the way that you've gone through it and the way I've gone through it could be very different. You may be going through on a life raft and I'm going through on a yacht, or vice versa. Think about this. There's a big difference between where you lay your head. Okay? If you were in California or New York versus Texas or Florida, the rules you played by were totally different from one another. Totally. So just where you laid your head, same storm, different boats. Then, remember back then in Kentucky at the beginning of COVID, when county by county it was different? And like those really early days where like, oh, if we step over the county line, we've got to do this, but over here we don't have to do. And you're finding out that we have 120 counties. There's a lot of counties. So where you laid your head mattered. Then think about your age. If you were older versus younger, that had an impact on it. Who you lived with. Maybe you didn't have any kind of trouble or concern for yourself, but you had a great deal of concern for the folks that lived in your house. And that scared you. And maybe I had no comprehension of that. Then think about the type of work that you do. So if you're a restaurant owner or you're in the commercial real estate business, you got killed. Killed. But if you were in the remodeling business, you couldn't keep up. Or if you were a veterinarian, because everybody went out and bought a dang cat and a dog. And all these cats and dogs had separation anxiety right now because we were all with them and now we're not. But the bottom line to it is, you guys, in the profession you are in, you went through it different than other professions. How was it to be a professional librarian or in the library profession during COVID and post-COVID? Hey, what about being an elected official, y'all? These guys are totally trying to keep laws going and keep services flowing and so forth, and there's no manual on how to do that in a pandemic. And oh, by the way, you're going to hear me say this again, elected officials is the one job that you have to have zero qualification for to get. You don't have to have a resume. You don't have to have anything. It is a popularity contest that you win. That is it. Don't let anybody fool you. It is a popularity contest. But the point simply is, once you win the popularity contest, you now have big time responsibilities. Big time responsibilities to lots of people. In Lexington's case, we had 350,000 people. Now, I've served prior to COVID, so I didn't have to contend with this. But my point is, these guys went through it different. Hey, try being a live speaker. Show of hands. Show of hands. If you've been with me before, I made you do this back then. But show of hands, March 2020, when it first hit, through, let's call it September. How many of y'all got a paycheck? Raise your hand. Get a paycheck? I must have been real nice, because I didn't. I had the best 2020 lined up, and all those speeches evaporated. So guess what? You may look at me and go, well, he went through it this way. Oh, really? First 4 months, I'm thinking we're going to live in a box under the bridge, y'all. But after that, it changed because people needed dynamic virtual speakers, and my business changed. It actually improved. But the point simply is, at the end of the day, same storm, different boats. If you understand that concept, you can have tremendous empathy for people you didn't have before you walked through these doors. Everybody went through it differently, and you need to understand that, okay? They may not have had your experience, good or bad, all right? But you got to consider how your elected officials went through it, how the government went through it. All right, that's the COVID effect. What else is the times? Short attention spans. We have, did you know, 8 seconds or less. Some of y'all much less, as I said. I'm watching it. I'm watching y'all. Okay? But the point of that is 8 seconds of attention span today. Back in 2000, it used to be 12 seconds. So the research is showing it's going down. And whether it's an urban legend or it's hard science, it says that goldfish have 9 seconds of attention span. Right? And why that matters to you is because you all don't sell pens and pieces of paper for a living. Like, that's not what you do, not something simple. You deal in very complex stuff, actually. What is the library? That's kind of a complex question. It's going to take a while to answer. What do you all do? Well, that'll take all day, right? What do we not do, basically? The point simply is that in the last 12 months, I want you to think about all of the encounters you've had with people, all the meetings you've run, whether one-on-one or one-on-many, live or virtual, all of the presentations you've done. Even when you presented, let's say, to the fiscal courts, like you said the other day, King, right? You had to present and so forth. I want you to ask yourself a really honest question today. How much time did you spend thinking of what you would say in the first 8 seconds to let that audience know this was about them? This is important to them. Here's the context. Because guess what? I work with leaders and teams across every industry sector, and people don't do it. But what I'm telling you all as a group of librarians is you've got to. From here on out, you've got to obsess on that audience, and you've got to show them value quick. Now, tell me your name again, sir. We were together in Logan County, weren't we? Yeah, you're the board member, right? Yeah, no, that's you. You, my friend. Yeah. What? Tell me your name again.
Homer Gray.
Homer Gray. So if Homer and I are friends, if we've been friends for a while, likely he's not going to give me just 8 seconds. But if I don't bring him value in some length of time, he will cut me off. The deeper the relationship, the longer runway you got, okay? I don't want you to feel like everybody's going to tune you out in 8 seconds. But if I don't have a relationship, if I've never met you before, and I come in and start talking about me and how awesome I am and this and that and the other, he may just tune that out quick. So relationships matter. You've got to deepen the relationship so you have more time. But at the end of the day, most people will just show up and throw up. Most people just start showing up and throwing up. This is what I saw constantly as a city council member, sitting watching the public come and present or speak about something, and they drone on and on and on. They have no idea they've lost their audience, and I don't know what they're asking for. I can't tell you how many times I sat there and after a presentation went, and do you want me to put that in committee? Do you want me to put it in the butt? What do you want them to do? And somehow that person on the mic is going, you should know how valuable this is. Many of you all know that have been with me before. I've spent 4.5 years as a global senior sales trainer for Lexmark, training sales reps and so forth. And I always joke about this, but our sales reps would oftentimes go into place and go, Mr. CFO, CEO, our printers are awesome. They print at 60 pages a minute and the drawers don't jam. Expecting him to somehow go, you are the savior of my life. Thank you. Woo! I never thought I'd hear that. Right? There's a disconnect. He has no comprehension why that should matter to him. Okay? So are you doing the same thing is the question. Are you just showing up, throwing up? Are you talking and saying things that they don't really see the value in? Or are you sending that epistle email that just goes on forever? Okay? If you are tempted to send a long email after today, please just remember this. Will you type it out, send it to yourself first, and then go look at it on your phone? Because this is how I'm going to look at it. And if I got to scroll 25 times to get to what you're talking about, you might want to shorten that sucker, okay? But we just go on, we want to pack everything in. We want to talk about it all. You just can't today, okay? Especially with these guys. As I said, I cannot tell you how many times I just sat there scratching my head going, what does this person want from me? What is it you're even talking about or asking? Or I don't see the value in that. And so I tune out. All right? The window to communicate is just getting tighter and tighter. That's all you just need to understand today. We've got to be more precise, and to gain connection in this 8-second world, this is the word I want you to write down. Your communication from here on out needs to be concise. Now, concise does not necessarily mean short. I just want you to hear me say that. It doesn't mean short necessarily. Here's what it does mean. Nothing unnecessary. Nothing unnecessary. So look at these two images. This may be your email right now. This may be your presentation to fiscal court. Well, there may just be a bunch of stuff in there that you don't need, okay? This is what you should get it down to. And I want to challenge you all to be ruthless about taking words out. Taking things out. Because more is just more, y'all. More is more sometimes. It's not better. Be concise. Because I will appreciate that so much more. Okay? I will listen to you so much more if you're concise. If you try and pack it all in there, you may lose me. And not because your stuff is bad. It's just because I don't understand it. My head's too full. COVID really caused our heads to be very full, very quick. And it almost hurts these days when somebody brings you something that's intricate. I mean, I don't know about you all, but it is for me. It's like, oh, man, I'd love to help you with that, Courtney, but that's got 17 codicils to it. My eyes hurt, right? So, be concise. So let me give you a tool that's going to help you do that. It's called 3 questions. Here's what I want you to do. 60 seconds before you walk into a meeting, you can ask these questions and connect better. But the bigger the meeting, the more time you really need to spend with these questions, okay? This is not, you don't want to do this 60 seconds before you go in and have your report, annual report with the fiscal court, okay? Everyone spend a little time. But seriously, if you will take 60 seconds and ask yourself these 3 questions, you will connect better. Literally, before you walk in the meeting or pick up the phone, craft the email, send the text, especially before you engage these guys, ask who, what, how. Who, what, how. Let me sharpen the pencil a little bit and tell you what I mean by that. Who? Who is my audience specifically in this case? So, in this case, you are meeting, it's your annual meeting with fiscal court, you're just going over your tax rate, that type of thing. Okay. You need to understand that's a totally different audience that has different needs than if you're talking to your board or you're talking to your family. Second question is what? What is important to them, that audience? Specifically, what do they need from you? And lastly, a question nobody ever asks, but it's a phenomenal question and it will help you so much. How? How do you want them to feel when you're done? How would you like them to feel when you walk out of there? What is the emotion that you want to leave them with? Or the impression you want to leave them with? Have you ever tried to push a string or a chain? You can't. It just does that. It's like you can't push it in a straight line. It goes everywhere. But you can pull a string in a straight line. And if you ask these three questions, you can pull a string the way you want it to go. You can direct the conversation, you can direct the meeting or the presentation much better, especially when you know where you want to end up. Okay? Who, what, how, before you engage people will change the game for you, but especially with elected folks. So let's sharpen the pencil a little bit more. The who question, you can go a little bit deeper and ask things like, do I know their name? So let me think about, let's flip it. This is how I prepare for you guys, okay? So, do I know their names? Well, I know some of you all in this room. I've met some of you before. We've had time to train together and things like that. I may not know as many tomorrow in Marshall County as I know here in Warren County and surrounding area. Do I know their titles? Yep, I sure do. I know that you guys are these professions within the library industry, profession, if you will, okay? Do I know why they're in the meeting? Here's a question that seems so dumb on the surface, you all, but is actually so profound. Do I know why you showed up? Now here's what's interesting. Yesterday I was with a group, with a corporation and their sales leadership from across North America, okay? They were in that room with me for 8 hours because their boss told them to be there. You will be in this meeting, okay? None of them went, Jay McChord speaking, I'll pay $1,000 for that, let's go, right? And I have to know that as a speaker going into it. They were forced to be in that meeting. I've got to earn their trust immediately, okay? You all are different, very different audience because you've got a curiosity about the topic. Your pain threshold has gotten pretty high with this that it's made you come out and listen to this guy, okay? And some of you all, we may have talked before and you go, I really like Jay's stuff. This is good for us to hear and reiterate and so forth. So I know this audience is very different than the audience I had yesterday. The same thing applies to you. Ask yourself, why are they in the meeting? In your all's case, and let's just take King, I'm going to keep pounding the fact that you just did the fiscal court yesterday, or this week? Was it this week or last? Last week. So he's doing his annual report before them. They're there because that is a called meeting. They have to be in those seats. He's on the agenda. They didn't say, oh, the library's coming, let's all assemble. They have to be there and listen to this. This is a check box for them. Sorry, King. Didn't mean to bust your Bible, but sorry. I know. We'll talk about it afterwards. All right. Have I met any of them before? Do I know any of the people sitting in this particular audience? Yeah, I've met some of you all before. This is really cool. And what generations are they? And we're going to get to that in just a minute. All right? Literally, this is what I'd like you to do. I'm going to just put about 90 seconds on the clock, 2 minutes on the clock. Nothing exhaustive. But I just want you to write down your elected officials, just thinking about who is in your community. Do you know their names? Just jot them down. What are their titles? Magistrate, county judge, city council member, whatever that is. And then, do you know why they meet with you? Okay, do you know why they would be meeting with you or are going to meet with you? And then, have you met them before? What generations are they? Just literally 2 minutes. This is not exhaustive. I just want you to get to thinking this way. Again, a little travel music. Go. Okay. Next, what is important to them? Let's keep our eye on them, meaning your elected officials. Sharpen the pencil a little bit. What do they value? Okay, what does that particular audience that you're encountering value? What do they already know that doesn't need to be covered? I mean, like, think how dumb it would be, you all, if I got up here, if I started this session with this. Well, welcome. It's good to have you here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, Warren County, home of Western Kentucky University. Good to see all of you all. Is it hot in here? Is it hot? Is this mic on? Like, how ridiculous. There's a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be said. So what is it that doesn't need to be covered that you might accidentally put in there that might cause them not to listen? All right? What do they already need to know? Or already know? What do they need most from me? This is a really key question, especially with elected officials. What do they need most in this meeting? Whatever this meeting is, let's say. So again, let's go back to your reporting to the fiscal court. Maybe they need technical information. What is the tax rate this year, King? And how are you spending that? Well, if he doesn't have that information, but he knows the audience is going to want it, he needs to bring the person with him that has it. Bring the people with. If you don't have it, it's okay. Just bring somebody with you that does have it, if that's what they're going to need. Maybe it's timeliness. So if you're trying to get something into the city of Lexington's budget, if you're trying to get that into my budget, you've got to bring it to me probably in March or April for an August budget, because our process takes that long. You need to know my process and be timely with whatever your information is or whatever it is you're trying to do. Maybe it's conciseness, just how you get to the point. Maybe it's your enthusiasm. I'm going to say this a bunch when you're with me. Y'all, I can't be more excited about your thing than you are. I mean, if you come in at a 6 and you think I'm going to be an 8, you're drunk. There's no way. You gotta be, if you want me to be an 8, you better be a 9 or a 10 about it. Okay? Nobody can be more excited about your thing than you are. And if you're not excited, I'm not. Okay? Just remember that sometimes people are just looking for enthusiasm from you. And you're coming in maybe a little bit of the wet blanket. All right? People want to follow people that are excited. That's a key piece. Okay? Maybe it's just truthfulness. Hey, this is where we are. This is what's going on. I want to be shooting straight with you from the get-go. Okay? Or maybe this is the best value of your tax dollar. Maybe this is what we should be doing. All right. And this is a big one. Big. Write this down. I don't want conflict. I really don't. I am not seeking conflict. As much as you think sometimes we are, the people I love to be with are people that keep conflict off me. Keep me away from it. Okay? So, what is it that they need from you in this meeting, in this encounter? Is a huge question. All right? Is there something else that we haven't thought of? Courtney, you raising your hand.
When I was just in fiscal court, I ended up listening to one of the magistrates, and it really kind of let me understand the math equation that's happening in his head every time. That, I mean, what he wants is votes, period. At the end of the day, it's votes. And so everything that comes before him, it either gives him votes or takes votes from him.
Yep.
And he's playing that equation. If I say yes here, I lose 20 people, but then there's going to be 500 new businesses. So 500 beats 20 every day, twice on Sunday. Do you feel like that's at the end, like the bottom line of what most magistrates or fiscal court is looking for?
In an election year.
Okay.
So if I'm in a 2-year cycle, my first year, I'm not counting votes like that. Second year, my gosh, I'm counting votes like that.
Yeah.
I am. So where are they in the election cycle matters to you. You've got to think about that. If I'm first year in and I've got a 4-year term, I'm not really counting votes too much. Now, I don't want conflict. I don't want everybody just, pitchforks and torches. But at the same time, the closer it gets to an election, the more that is going to ratchet up and play a factor. It might not be the number one factor, but it will play a factor. Yes, ma'am.
The one thing I love is when you have like parades and it's an electoral year, good God almighty, you could stand there for hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, exactly. All right. All I want you to do is take a couple seconds, ask this question. So you know who your audience is. They're the elected people in your world. Just ask yourself a couple of these questions. What is it that they need from me? Okay, in a generic sense, or in your next meeting. But I just want to give you some time to workshop this out, okay? So it's not just theory. Go. Okay. How do you want them to feel after it's done? Let's sharpen the pencil on that. What's that feeling you want to leave them with? All right? Let's just take a couple of seconds. And what are the types of feelings you'd love for them to walk out of there with? Okay? Of all these different ones, I certainly want you guys to leave here this session encouraged and feeling equipped in new ways. But what is it that you would like the feeling to be when you encounter your elected folks? Okay? Just take a couple seconds and write that down. Okay. Literally, gang, take 60 seconds before you walk into a meeting with somebody. Ask who, what, how. You're going to connect better. The bigger the meeting, the more time you need to spend thinking who, what, how. When you walk out of here today, you've already started that thought process at least. You're starting to think about that audience through these 3 questions. My directors in the room, if you've got folks that report to you that are having their own meetings, this is a great coaching tool of who did you meet with? What's important to them? How do you want them to feel? Not just elected wise, but it's a great management tool. 1, for yourself to aim. 2, to teach other people, because it's very simple and you can remember this. Okay? So that's the 8-second piece. That's a tool you can walk out of here with. 3 questions. You're going to aim better. You've got some really good stuff already. We're going to keep building on that as we go. But this is the biggie. This is the one that everything really rolls up to. Did you know? Did you know? We now have 5 generations working side by side. All wanting it their own way. All demanding it their own way. Never happened before. You have to somehow magically hit the mark with all 5. You have to shift gears like crazy. The library is a womb to tomb entity. You deal with every generation, even the ones that aren't in the workplace. You're getting Gen Alpha right now, okay? I've been dealing a lot with those guys because they're basically 2nd grade and under right now. So you guys see everything, every generation up there, okay? But the ones working side by side are these 5, all right? And different generations see things differently. I know that's an obvious statement, but let's put it to you this way. If I were to have you define the words simple technology, would someone older than you define that different? Oh yeah. Somebody younger? Oh yeah, right? But I just said simple technology. Oh, this is simple technology, what we got here. Right? Contact information. So after this is over with, you're like, oh my gosh, our house is on fire. Jay, I need your contact information. We got to talk. Okay, well, what do you want? My LinkedIn profile? You want the thing off my phone? You need a business card? But you just said contact information. Time management. Different generations see it differently. Success, way defined different. Leadership, defined very differently. Mental health, yeah, maybe that one is defined wildly different. Along with, what the heck is that? Flexible work environment, but different generations are going to define it differently. Community impact. You know the library has great community impact. Do you? Different generations may find that to be different. Good government. We offer good government here. Do you? Really? I don't think so, because a wide selection in the library. It was really interesting when I was, I think I was here, Courtney, it was either here or with you, Logan, in Logan County, where you had reduced the periodicals, and someone, a patron had said, you don't have a wide selection. It was, they were beating the library up over the fact that you don't have enough magazines and periodicals and so forth. So that older generation is like, you don't have enough stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're killing ourselves. We got all this stuff, right? We have a wide selection. Not by that generation's standard. Ease of access. Oh, you know, it's easy to access the library. It depends on the generation. Appropriate material. Did we go there? Yeah, we went there. I think that's where the argument is coming from, you all. That's where it's coming from, is all of these generations seeing things differently. Okay? And then if we want to start a generational riot, we just throw those up. Everybody goes to fighting, right? Hard work, you know, is defined differently by different folks. This is a big deal. I don't want to make light of it because it is a big deal. Every problem you walk in here with, every challenge you've got, rolls up to this. 5 generations defining things differently. That's it. Every single thing that you got back home that you're struggling with, I can eventually take it to this. This is the headwater, okay, if you will. So, why it's such a big deal is the decision makers you're working with are changing dramatically. Elected officials are changing. And so you've got to understand this generational thing in a big way, okay? So let me give you a tool, a simple tool that you can use, walk out of here, and be great at internal people, the folks you got to work with inside the library, and external, okay? A lot of folks who speak on this topic will confuse you with a lot of dates and a lot of, okay, Gen X's favorite song was this, and you're trying to figure out how in the world does that apply to what I'm trying to do. I've stripped it down to one word. I'm going to give you one word per generation. If you can remember the word, you can connect every time, okay? So to reinforce that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the word, and then I'm going to give you an image that's going to help kind of solidify it, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what to say to them. Literally the words that come out of your mouth to connect to them, okay? So you don't even have to, like, I'm going to lead you to water. I'm going to teach you to fish, but then I'm going to hand you a fish so you can eat tonight, okay? Here we go. Traditionals. Traditionals were born before 1946. So in the year 2023, that makes them about 78 years and older. So I want you to picture someone 78 years or older that's in your life right now. Someone you know well, okay? The word for those folks is rules. They love and appreciate rules and structure. And why wouldn't they? I mean, think, public works programs of FDR, military bureaucracy, World War II, post-World War II corporate bureaucracy. These people love and appreciate rules and structure. And remember how all during COVID we kept saying this was the bunch that we were most concerned about because of their age and their health? I totally agree with that, but I would go a step further and say it was the rules factor that really caused them problems. My mom and dad are in this generation, 88 and 83 respectively, y'all. All right? They go to Disney every year. They go Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and back up. Think about their trip during COVID. They're in Tennessee, getting gas. Do we need the mask? Do we not? We're in Georgia at the Cracker Barrel. Do we need the mask? Do we not? We get to Disney. Disney has a wonderful policy that seems really, really, it sounds logical. Masks on indoors, masks off outdoors. That's all fine and well until you're down on the ground where you're walking along, you step inside the lobby of a hotel, and you're accosted by the employees to get your mask up, get your mask up, get your mask up. And here's a generation that's just trying to follow the rules, and they're trying to get to that. And this group loves and appreciates rules and structure. The image I want to give you is an hourglass versus an Apple Watch. Meaning, you've got to operate on their time, not your time. They will not speed up for you. But if you'll slow down for them, they have so much institutional knowledge they really want to impart to you. Okay? But we're all too busy. We're all moving too fast. We got to go. They don't move fast enough for us. My gosh, they still write checks at the checkout line in Kroger. No pre-filled bills. No, not even the date. No. But if you will slow down for these guys, they have so much they want to impart. So, what I would say when you want to connect is, one, you got to slow down, operate on their time, and two, you need to ask them in the framework of rules. Hey, what are the rules of coming back from failure? What are the rules of staying married to the same person for decades? What are the rules in how you should engage the public in this way? What are the rules? Just frame everything with the word rules around it, and it just feels good. And they will share. They want to share. And they got lots to share. All right? Baby boomers, you all were born between 46 and 66. Don't ever get hung up in the years, you all. Please don't get hung up in the years, because invariably you're going to go home tonight, you're going to go online and go, wait a minute, Jay, you're off by 3 years. It says that, the years are a little bit all over the map. It's the word that matters, okay? But boomers, you're roughly 58-ish to 77-ish right now, okay? Your word is legacy. Do you realize that 10,000 baby boomers, 10,000 folks born between 46 and 66 are going to retire today, and 10,000 are going to retire tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, for the next 15 plus years. 10,000 a day are going to retire. Some are going to volunteer, some will be voluntold. But the bottom line is that is a shift, a monstrous shift in leadership. Big time shift. Okay? Folks that have been in positions of leadership for a long time that we have built long-standing relationships with are all of a sudden gone. When they're gone and their title is gone, sometimes your juice goes completely away. And what I'm seeing a lot of everywhere is we've spent a lot of times building relationships with boomers, as we should, but to the exclusion of knowing who comes next. Who is the successor? What are the successive generations? So we haven't spent the time where we needed to in understanding who we're dealing with now that's coming into that space. Okay? So boomers, when you are working with boomers, or if you are one, the image is to always think about the cornerstone of a building. My job is to put your name in that cornerstone, to secure your legacy, to make sure nothing dings that legacy. All right? When you're working with boomers, always, always cast things in legacy, personal legacy. What do they want it to be? What do you want said about you when you no longer work here, or you're no longer here? What do you want folks saying? What is it, the legacy that you want to leave, and how do you want to lead in that direction? It matters to these folks. They are at a stage in life, you guys are at a stage in life where you've earned a legacy. My job is to make sure that it's what you want it to be and not to ding it. And when you're dealing with elected officials that are of this generation, that is huge. It is big time stuff. And so they're not only counting votes, but they're really thinking about legacy. Okay? There's a giant relevancy play right now with boomers. And I'll just tell you straight up, what I've seen out there are lots of boomers that have had titles for a very long period of time, who have been in power positions that got decimated by COVID. And it showed they don't know a thing about technology. And now they're irrelevant. And they're being voluntold to retire instantly. And so it matters to these folks, and it should matter to us. So think about legacy being a key piece with the boomers you're working with. All right, Gen X, my generation. Those of us born between 66 and 81. How many fall in the category in the room? Raise your hand high, be proud. All right, keep your hands up. I want to show you something. This is happening everywhere, you all. We talk a ton about boomers and a ton about millennials because y'all are massive. But look at the biggest group in the room. Look, let's all be proud. Here we go. Gen X has become the largest generation in the room. What that means to you is they are probably very significant leaders, elected leaders in your community as well. They are probably some of the people that are driving the bus right now. It is really interesting. We spent a ton of time on boomers, a ton of time on millennials, but Gen X is really the biggest group in the room, and I'm seeing this everywhere I speak, you all. So, We are about 42 to 57-ish right now, okay? Our word is level. Now, why would it be level? It's because of every video game we grew up playing. So my question is to my Gen X brother and sister, what'd you play? What was your game? What'd you love to play?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man? Mario Brothers? I knew I liked you. I knew it. Asteroids, Donkey Kong. What'd you say? Donkey Kong. All those games were built the same way. You put a quarter in a game, you got 3 lives, and you rode those lives as long as you could, climbing as many levels as you could to ultimately do what? To do what? Put your initials in. High school, baby. J-A-Y is at the top. That's right. Every game we grew up playing was constructed the same way. You put a quarter in a game. You rode that quarter as long as you could, climb as many levels as you could, try to get as high on the scoreboard as you could. Here's the important point of that for you all. The technology of the day did not allow us to put our full names in. We got 3 initials. That's it. Right? So I don't know who these people. These are not people to me. They're just initials. Gen X does not compete against people. We compete against a game. Boomers, this is the hardest thing in the world to wrap your head around, because you can draw a circle around somebody and go, I'm going to bury that guy or gal. Like, boomers really can do it. If you don't believe me, look at all the documentary stuff that's coming out between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and their rivalry. They could win an NBA championship and still be bummed out if they didn't get the MVP and the other one did, because they were solely focused on burying that other guy. So here's the deal. Gen X doesn't compete against people. We compete against the game. The trick is you got to figure out what game am I playing. You got to figure out what I'm putting my quarters into. Now I'm going to change the word game so it makes sense to the word priority. And what you want to find out is the answer to this question. Hey Jay, what are your top 2 priorities? You want to ask me that question, and the reason why you're asking me about 2 is I can't tell you what 1 is because it might change day to day, and 3 is going to cause my head to hurt. So just give me 2, takes the pressure off. And if I was answering that question, so think about this. I am the magistrate that you are building the relationship with. I'm the county judge. And I answer this way. Well, top 2 priorities right now, honestly, is taking this community to the next level in our health. I see that we're kind of poor in health, and I'd really like to see us moving in that direction in a big way. And then, my family is probably the top one, because my wife and I have 2 kids that are sophomores in college right now. So they kind of go back and forth. I mean, if I'm wearing my political hat, I think about that, but probably my number 1 is my family. Your job, if you're trying to get me to move in your direction, library, is you got to show me how you or the library helps me climb a level in one or both of those games. I think you can answer the first one quick. How can you help the health of this community? I mean, that one you've got lots of resources for, okay? And how can you help me spend more time with my family? You probably can answer that one too. Do you see how valuable you become if you just know my word and help me climb levels in that game? All right, millennials, those of you born between 81 and 2000, how many fall in the category in the room? All right, millennials, good to see you. Good to see you guys. You now, congratulations, you wear the gold medal. You are the largest generation in the workplace, and you are the largest generation on the planet. Sorry, boomers, mortality caught you. These guys are the largest generation on the planet and in the workplace. So what that means is that we, whether you are one or not, have to understand this generation. They are driving the bus in many ways. They are becoming the new leaders daily, okay? And they are very different. In fact, there's a schism between traditionals, boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z that is called the modern versus postmodern movement. There is a schism there in many ways. These guys, you've got to understand them. And their word, they're about 23 to 41-ish right now, but their word is impact. Your word is impact. You want to have impact and you want it now. It's in your DNA. Every single one of you has a DNA that says, I need to change the world. I want to change the world. I really do. I did a training in LinkedIn in New York, and which, by the way, LinkedIn in New York is like millennial summer camp, y'all. It's crazy. But I'd sneak off to the cafeteria and just have random conversations with different ones. And I'm like, look me in the eye and tell me, you know you're supposed to change the world, don't you? And they would look at you like, how do you know that? You're reading my mail, man. That is crazy. Because it's in your DNA as a generation. It's totally awesome. It's one of the best things about you guys. You want to change the world, and you want to change it now. You want to impact and have it now. And let's talk about kind of why. Let's compare apples to apples. The video games you grew up playing versus the ones I played, very different construction. None of these really have a thing to do with points, even though the ones you thought would, like football, like Madden football. No, I control the story in every one of these games. I have impact over the story. I can make Aaron Rodgers play for the Kansas City Chiefs if I wanted to, because I control the story. And every bit of technology in their world has allowed them to be the producer, the director, the writer, the on-screen talent. They control the story. They can have impact and now have it now. So what's important to them is having impact. And your question always is, how do you see change in the world? How can I help? When we would train Lexmark reps, we'd bring them in for a week and they'd stay in downtown Lexington. I'd ask different ones who has a millennial in their house or whatever. And invariably, the ones that did, I'd challenge them to go home and call them that night and ask them that question. And no lie, most would come back crying the next day saying, I've never had that kind of a conversation with my son or daughter or my grandkid. Thank you. This is super important. But you also have to give them the out of, if they don't know right now, that's okay. When you do know, I'm here. I'll help you. I want to help. How can the library help change the world? Oh, I don't know. About 400 different ways that I can think of, starting with literacy. Okay? My mother, as I said, librarian, where I got my love of it. My mom, her mentor told her, if you can teach a child to read, they own the world. If you can teach them to read, there's nothing that can stop them. That's the one barrier that can stop them if they can't read. And she made her life about helping people read. So literacy, just at a basic spot, y'all, changes the world. But the point simply is, these guys want that. And you got to figure out what it is, how they see changing the world, how you can help. Lastly is Gen Z, for as far as in the workplace, 2015. I put that because there's a really squishy line between the bottom end of millennials, top end of Gen Z. They kind of look similar, but they're wildly different. That's why the word matters. But these guys are about 7-ish to 22-ish right now, about second grade to just out of college. They're in school right now. The bulk of them are elementary, middle, high school, college, some would say just out, okay? Their word is customized. Everything in their world is customized to them, the individual. And I give you Riley's letter jacket as the explanation. This is my daughter when she was a freshman in high school. She got a varsity letter in volleyball. She went to Lafayette High School. I went to Lafayette High School. 1984, I graduated, or I got my first letter, and my mom and dad said, we're paying for a letter jacket. There's one place you buy letter jackets in Lexington. It's called the Locker Room. It's on Lane Allen Drive. They've been around for 1,000 years. Mom and dad gave me a blank check. I went in and bought my letter jacket in 1984. In 1984, if you were an athlete at Lafayette High School, you got a red stadium jacket with a blue L. And if you were in the band, you got a blue stadium jacket with a red L. This sucker, 2,000 decisions. See that? There's like 40 different design options in the catalog for just that. That's not the cuffs, that's not the collar. Those are different. How long do you want it? Do you want leather sleeves, cloth sleeves? Do you want colored sleeves? Do you want your name here? Do you want a hood? Do you want... You nearly lost my mind, you all, trying to build this dang coat. The bottom line to it is, nobody has a coat like Riley McChord on this planet. It is her customized jacket. Let me tell you about my son. When he was in middle school, he fell in love with this rapper, Chance the Rapper. Don't know if you know him. Chance the Rapper had a problem a few years ago with Wendy's because Wendy's took the hot nuggets off the menu. Chance the Rapper was ticked. And Wendy's came back to him and said, if you can get 1 million people to sign the petition to say they want it back on, well, we'll put them back on. Well, my son, he answered the call, y'all. He was one of the 1 million. He signed the petition. The hot nuggets show back up on the menu on a Wednesday. I know that because he not only had them on day one, but he had them DoorDash to the house. Think about what I just said. They don't exist on the planet on Tuesday. He speaks them into existence like creation. They exist on Wednesday, but he doesn't have the time to go get them. He must have someone fetch them for him, bring them to the house like the mama bird bringing the worm to the baby bird in the nest. That's how customized his experience is. And their world is customized, okay, to them. And that's their expectation. And there's a lot of things we can talk about with these guys that are really important, but I don't want to get sidetracked. The point simply is this. You're working with these folks. This is your new entry-level folks. They are super dynamic. They are wildly different than millennials. Millennials want to change the world. These guys want to go do this. And they are on that track to go do that. They're very pragmatic, highly entrepreneurial, and they want to go do that, whatever that is. So the way you connect to them is there's a magical phrase. May I share something with you that might shorten the runway to your success? Shorten the runway to your success causes their ears to perk up, and they will listen all day long. Because I want to go do that. You're going to tell me I can do that faster? Yeah, tell me what you got, okay? So, you've got a tool now in your hip pocket. Traditionals, the word's rules. Boomers, it's legacy. Gen X, level. Millennials, impact. Gen Z, customized. In an 8-second world, you all, this is huge in your hip pocket, okay? Because now, all you've got to do is think about your elected leaders through this lens. Who are they? And you're going to start to see what they're trying to accomplish. You're going to start to see what's important to them, all right? So, I want you to know I take my own medicine. I don't just throw this stuff out willy-nilly. There's a lot of intentionality. But I want to take you back to my first slide. And what did I say when I took the floor? Well, here's the actual script of what I say when I take the floor. You never look down on a day of small beginnings. And today may be the small beginning that changes everything for you. Today may be the day that you can see you can leave a lasting legacy. Today may be the day you see that you can go to another level, personally or professionally. Today may be the day that you see that you could have impact and truly change the world the way you want to. That's what we're going to do in our time together. What? Did I do that to you? Yes, I did, because I know my audience, daggone it. And I know it's going to be Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, and there might be a sprinkling of a Gen Z in the room. And so I want, in the first 8 seconds, to connect to my audience. This is the intentionality you've got to have when you're working with folks. And what most people don't want to do is they don't want to move the middle dirt. They just want to show up and give the report and say something like, hey, these printers print at 60 pages a minute and the drawers don't jam. And you're to go, thank you, you're my savior. No, you've got to think about who's my audience, what's important to them, and how do I want them to feel. Man, I want you guys to walk out of here going, I'm encouraged and equipped. I'm not as beat down as I was when I walked in. That guy's got some solutions. I like him. I can talk to that guy. That's what I want for this. So, question is, generationally, who are your elected leaders? All right? So let's throw this up on the board, and I'm just going to give you a few minutes, again, a minute and a half. Just think about who they are and what generation they might be, okay? So just run it through county judge, magistrates, and if you deal at all with the city government, that translates there too. So just jot down by their name who you think is what. Okay. You may or may not know, but this is the type of thing you got to start to do and start thinking about. Who are they? Who's who in the zoo, you all? That's what you got to start asking yourself. Okay. Connection versus perfection. It's about your audience, not about you. It's not about 60 pages a minute and the drawers don't jam. It's about what they want, what they need. And how does 60 pages a minute and the drawers not jamming save their world? Okay? How can you articulate that value? All right. So I'm going to shift gears dramatically, and we're going to start now positioning your library as a community asset to these guys and gals. And how do we make it simple? Well, let's start at 30,000 feet. And what I want to do is I want to just give you how do elected officials think, okay? Because it may not be what you actually think. It is an alien, foreign world. I am telling you, it is totally alien. Think about this. I may be your cousin or your next door neighbor, and we've known each other forever. And then I get elected, and when I step into those hallowed halls, I talk a completely different language. Where else on the planet would someone actually say these words in the same sentence? We need to have a meeting to see if we can have a meeting. We need to take a vote so that we can see if we can take a vote. Does that make any sense in the real world? No. But in this world, that makes total sense. And you have to do that. I can't take this vote until we take a vote to see if we can take the vote. You all may go, that's dumb, that's crazy. You can say that all day long. But my world is I have to say that procedurally to get this thing down the line. I am an alien when I step into these hallowed halls. I may be your neighbor and your best buddy over here. But when I get in here, I talk and think differently. That's the first piece you got to get your head around, okay? And I'm forced to do that by law. Like, I actually have rules that mandate me to talk that way and think that way. Okay, it's not that I want to do that. I have to do that. Okay, so I want you to understand this distinction. The way an elected official thinks is based upon their office, either the executive branch or the legislative branch. They think differently. So you have to think, am I talking to the judge or the mayor, or am I talking to a magistrate or city council member or commissioner? Okay? Executive, legislative, elected officials think differently. So let's break this down. If you're the executive branch, if you are the county judge or you are the mayor, you are responsible for everything. Every single thing in that community, you personally are responsible for. You have to propose a budget. You have to come up with numbers out of thin air, propose it, all right? And then you got to execute whatever the budget is that the legislative branch ultimately approves. So you propose something, you say, this is what I think we ought to do, then legislature takes over, legislative branch takes over, magistrates or county and city council, and they make up their own. And then they throw it back over the fence to you and say, make it work. And you do, you have to execute because you are the executive branch. All right, so you've got to execute the daily operations of your community. So public safety, every single thing that you all think of public safety wise, which is police, fire, it can be if you've got a jail, a local jail, and it can be also code enforcement, building inspection, all that stuff can fall under public safety. I'm responsible for that. Oh, I'm responsible for every road and every sewer pipe. Yay! Are you kidding me? I'm in charge of Parks and Rec. And I just got blown up by this mom because that kid didn't have the official lacrosse field available to them on Thursday nights. I got to deal with this mom. Yep, you do. I represent everyone. If I'm in the executive branch, I represent every single citizen out there. Okay? That's super important for you to understand. I'm elected generally every 4 years. All right? I balance the needs and the wants of every single individual of my community and every group. So everybody wants something, and I got to balance that somehow, some way. Okay? And so that makes it really hard for me to focus on any one thing at any one time. So it's hard for me to focus because I got all this going on. And generally, I have another job. I mean, unless I'm retired or I'm Lexington or Louisville mayor or whatever, it's generally not a full-time job. So I'm trying to keep the family business going and then deal with crazy mom who's mad about the lacrosse stuff. And then I got this group over here demanding that I. That's the executive branch. Legislative branch is a little different, okay? How so? My job as a legislator, as a magistrate, or as a city council member is to pass laws, so resolutions and ordinances, and to pass budgets. That's it. That is the sole purpose of my job, to pass laws and budgets. Now, I become a glorified customer service rep because you're my neighbor and you're like, man, there's this barking dog. What are you going to do about it? Right? But that's not my job. Not written by the ordinance. It is, my job is to pass laws and budgets. That's all I'm supposed to do. Okay? I take the executive branch's proposed budget when they come up with that, and then I work on the real budget. I'm going to tell them, here's what we really got to work with, and here's where we're going to spend it. And then they got to go make it work. I'm not responsible for the day-to-day. I don't have to clean the pool. I don't have to make sure the sewer pipes work. Now, you're going to blow me up because the pool isn't filled, but that's not really my job. I can throw that over on the mayor. Mayor's fault, county judge's fault. Talk to them. I'll make sure your concern is heard. I'm usually focused on a few very specific areas, something that has my heart. So for me, I love health and wellness stuff. I was building trails. I was doing a lot of health and wellness stuff, and then a ton of economic development stuff. That's where I spent my time outside of my official responsibilities. I spent my influence there. So legislators are going to have one or two or three things that really have their heart, okay? But they're not responsible for everything. So I don't have to worry about everything, but I can go push this agenda if I want to, all right? I represent a defined part of the county or the city. So in Lexington, I represented the 9th District, okay? That's 30,000 people living on the south side of Lexington over by Fayette Mall. That's who gets me in office. Now, I am responsible for the whole city in some ways, but I don't care. If you live on the north end of town, so if you lived on the north end of town, you're not my constituent. So you can blow me up all you want, and I'm going to try and help you, but at the end of the day, you don't really get me elected or not. I got to worry about my friend, because he's on the fence whether he's going to vote for me or not. I got to make sure he votes for me. So the point simply is, what area do they represent? You've got to understand that they generally take a pie. Some of you all, they cover all the county. They serve countywide. You just need to know what that is. We represent our friends, our family, and our neighbors. And it's the worst job in politics because everybody knows where we live. They do. I was with a state senator when I first got elected. He's like, oh gosh, you're a district city council member? That's the worst job in politics. You represent your friends, family, and neighbors, and they all know where you live. That's horrible. Right? Yeah, you're right. Right. I'm always getting an earful at the grocery. Somebody's in my ear telling me about something I need to get myself involved in, or make sure that, why is that going on? Always at the grocery or at the ball field. Somebody's got me, and they're telling me all about what's up. I've got a shorter term, generally like 2 years, versus the mayor or the county judge that serves 4 years. So I've got to run more frequently, okay? And I likely have another job. So again, this is my full-time gig. I come in on whatever nights we do council meetings. In our case, it was every other Thursday, and I'm there every Tuesday for committee meetings. Okay? That's what I'm responsible for. All right, here's what they both share in common, which you got to know about. Elections are popularity contests. Again, don't let anybody fool you. It's not because they're super qualified. They might be, but it's not because of that they got elected. It's because they knew how to get onto your doorstep and tell you what they're all about. And you say, you know what? I like that guy or gal. Versus who else I've got. And people change their mind as to who they're going to vote for. You can't count on anybody's vote. You can only hope that you did a good job of that. But it's a popularity contest. Don't let anybody fool you. No resumes required. No prior experience required. And it's a temp job. 2 or 4 years. It's a temp job. And I knew that. Now, some people that I served with didn't understand that. Okay? But many of us do know, hey, I only have a limited time in here. So you're trying to get stuff done while you're in that space. I was always on a clock trying to get it done and get a certain list knocked out before the next election because I could be out. All right? I have to reapply for that job every 2 years or 4 years. I got to go back out to the folks door to door and put myself out there. Now, you may say, yeah, you know, these people, they don't have any qualification for this. They don't have it. What we do have is we did go out and knock on doors every day for quite a while. I knocked on about 20,000 doors at least 3 to 4 separate times. That is tough. Put yourself on somebody's porch and let them say whatever they want to say to you. So yeah, you do earn the job a little bit. Yeah, you do take, it's not quite as glamorous as it might seem to you, because somebody's going to stand on that porch and blow you up, okay? Or they may welcome you in. Or they may come with nothing on. That happened a couple times. You would be surprised when people come to the door in and how many will let their kids answer the door. That's a story for another day. All right. Hey, there's 2 separate skills required to be successful in elected office. The first is you got to get the job. You got to campaign. That is a skill set in and of itself. I got to be able to articulate my value to you individually or as groups to get you to vote for me. Okay? That is one skill set. But then I got to do the job. That is a totally different skill set. Now I got to work with, in our case we had a council of 15. I got to work with a city council of 15 council members. Here's what I learned very quickly. All I had to do to be successful in moving my stuff forward was I had to learn how to count to 8. That's it. 15 council members, simple majority is what gets voted in. I had to find myself and 7 other people that agreed with whatever it is I was trying to do. It's okay if we totally disagreed on this, okay? Because I've got my votes elsewhere, but you and I may be in lockstep on this other issue, okay? And that's my vote for this. I only had to learn how to count to 8 to get stuff done. That is a different skill set than learning how to count to however many thousands of votes I needed to get the job, all right? Usually, we are ticking off 50% of the population 100% of the time. We're making about half the people mad 100% of the time. The 50 changes. Every decision I make causes another 50% to go, I can't believe that guy. Right? So you're getting ground down by lots of people who don't like what you're doing and don't see eye to eye with them. Okay? There's not a lot of people that are like, we love you. We're totally with you, right? So it's not quite the awesome job that sometimes we think it is, and it's not quite as lofty as what you all may perceive it as. There's a ton of abuse that you're taking. That's why I said no conflict is really important to me. I love no conflict. You can give me something that moves this forward and our community forward, and we don't have to have people arguing. Hey. But the big thing is general population has no comprehension how the government works. 0. No idea how it actually gets done, how something moves through the process. And so when I say, we got to take a vote to see if we can take a vote, you check out. This is ridiculous, right? I don't even contend with that. No, lean into, okay, wait a minute. You all actually have to do that? Wow, that seems tough. You don't have to understand it. You just have to have some empathy and go, okay, so if I'm trying to get this done, Jay, what do you need from me? How soon do you need that? In what format do you need that? So it's easy for me to move that along, okay? Does that make sense so far? Okay. I hate to burst your bubble tonight, but the bottom line is I didn't wake up thinking about y'all. Your elected officials don't wake up thinking about you. Now I know that some of you all feel that way because of the heat you're taking. And so let me put the caveat, unless the house is on fire. And if the house is on fire, it's like the all-seeing eye of Sauron's on you, right? It's just, oh my gosh, I can't get this eye off me. But the point is, most days, I'm not waking up thinking about the library and what's going on over there. So all the things you mentioned about the value you bring to me. Bring it to me, because I don't wake up thinking about you. I'm not sitting around going, oh my gosh, how do we position the library today? Wonder what they got going on down there. I hate to burst your bubble, but it's just not a thing until it becomes a thing. And now, in some cases, it's a thing. It is. And every June, your life is going to be hell. I'm just being really honest with you. Because no matter where you land on those issues, June for an entire month causes half the people to feel one way and half the people to feel another. And you've got to somehow try and stay Switzerland in the deal and be neutral, and it's almost impossible. Okay? So my point simply is, don't wait till June to start building up relationships with folks. You gotta build up capital, you gotta build up asset base with people before you get into these crisis situations where there are pitchforks and torches. In some communities, that's what you're dealing with. I totally understand, okay? But the bottom line to it is, the way that you can survive that, but also thrive and navigate that, is to have a great relationship with me. And if you see that Jay just can't go there, whatever there is, Jay just can't go there, all right? But we've got a wonderful relationship, then we can totally navigate this. I don't have to beat you up publicly. I can just vote against it. There's a big difference, you all, in being against something and absolutely burning your house down, okay? I can choose to do either one. I can very quietly be against this and take care of my constituents, or I can very loudly do that. And my point to you is, the only way that you're going to really navigate that successfully is just have a great relationship with me. Let's do some stuff together. Help me do some things that I want to accomplish, to where you're so invaluable that yeah, that's our thing. That's where we just totally disagree. That's okay. We'll pick it up in July. You know, like, that's okay. That's okay. All right, so the question is, how can you really build bridges to these folks in your community? That's what I want to make sure you walk out of here with, right? And how can they see you guys as the community asset you really are, right? So to find the answer to that, we got to go back to the 3 questions again, right? We got to focus on those 3 questions: the who, what, how. Who are these people, really? What's important to them, really? And how do you want them to feel when you leave them, all right? So, go back to your list, kind of pull that back out as to who they are. I've added a couple things here to just see, do you know, how long have they been in office? Are they running for re-election? Is this the last time? Just take a look at this, go back to your list, and let me just give you a minute or so to kind of think through this. Is there any way to sharpen the pencil that we've missed so far? Because I want you to have this going out the door. All right? The key question on there is, who represents you? Do you know the name of whoever represents you? Obviously, the executive branch does, but legislatively, who's the magistrate that has you, or the council member, or the commissioner? Okay, so again, what's important to them? Here's a few more questions than you had the first time around. What are the biggest issues facing your community? I want you to write this down, y'all. What are they? Do you know? If you don't know, write it down. I have no comprehension what the biggest are. In the eyes of your elected officials, not in your eyes, in the eyes of your elected officials. What are their priorities? Do you know? What do they need most from you as a leader, or from the library standpoint? What is it that there's some things that they could use from you? And then what do they need most from the library itself? And, you know, I love it that one of you said physical space. That's a huge need in every community that you can meet immediately. But are you a community convener? Are you a Parks and Rec partner, children programming partner, problem solver? What are some of the things they need from you? right? And then lastly, how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel like the library really understands them and the challenges that they're facing? Do you want them to feel like the library really does want to partner and solve problems? Do you want them to, see you as that you can help them with more than any other entity in the community? Just ask yourself, what is it you'd like them to feel about you as they encounter you every time? As they encounter your staff, whether it's inside your building or you're inside their building, just take 30 seconds and think through that question and jot something down. Yes, ma'am.
It seems to me that the bottom line on all of this is communication.
Hey, you're
That's
right.
it.
You're right.
That's it.
It is. You all have such an amazing asset that people just have not understood. Like my mom always says, nobody knows the value of the library. And what that means is nobody can be more excited about it than you guys. I can't be more excited than you all are. You've got to be excited and you've got to be able to articulate this well. And so finding these things and finding the opportunity to do it. And you teed me up so nicely for my runway home here. So as we land the plane today, we can't boil the ocean today, okay? You can't just walk out of here and go, we're gonna fix it all. So what can we do? We can focus on one phrase, connection versus perfection, thinking about your audience every time. Who, what, how, every single time. What generation are you? I hadn't really thought about that, okay? Journey of 1,000 Steps begins with a step, so let me give you your step today. Here's the action item. And here's what I want you to hear me say. Every time you encounter me as an elected official, you better give me an action item. Give me something to do or to think about, okay? I cannot tell you how many times people stood in front of us. We give 15 minutes for a presentation at a council meeting. They'd stand up for 15 minutes, solid, run till the end of the clock, and never tell me what to do with that. I don't know. Beautiful presentation about African Cemetery number 2. I remember it so distinctly. Amazing historical space in our downtown. And the fence had kind of fallen down, and they were presenting it as, I kept guessing they were asking us to help refurbish it, to bring some resources to it, but they never asked. They never said, this is what we want you to do. And I felt terrible, but the group walked out and we didn't really do anything because we didn't know what to do. So it may be that you've just not told me what to do next. Try and give me an action step. And it doesn't have to be anything hard or difficult or cumbersome or intricate, but just a step. So let me give you your step. This is what I want you to do when you leave here today. Simply put, I just want you to figure out who represents you and who you know well politically, elected-wise. Who are the folks that either you know really well because, hey, I'm your cousin or I'm your next-door neighbor, or I represent you. Because if I represent you, you have a reason to talk to me. I have a reason to talk to you, okay? There is power in constituency. If you're a constituent of mine, I'm going to listen to you, okay? So figure out who you know well and or who represents where you live, okay? Write their name down. Run the 3 questions on them. Who are they specifically? What all you know about that person, those people? What's important to them? How do you want them to feel once you encounter them? And then lastly, ask for a relaxed, keyword relaxed, meeting. A coffee, a breakfast, a lunch, a hey, come over to our space, hey, where would you like to meet? And all you want to do is to understand them better. Hey, Jay, what are your top 2 priorities right now? Hey, Mayor, what's the legacy that or County Judge, what's the legacy you'd like to leave when it's all said and done? Hey, you're newly elected. What's the kind of impact you see having in our community, right? Like, just have a conversation around what's important to them. Figure out where they're coming from in a relaxed setting. The problem right now is you guys are dealing with these folks almost too late. It's the house is on fire, right? We're dealing in crisis mode, and that's never a good place to really try and build a dialogue, okay? So if you do this now and you get real strategic about it, invite them, I love what you said, invite them to come to stuff, but ask to come to their stuff. Hey, you're doing a ribbon cutting at the animal shelter. I know that's a big thing for you, Jay. When is that? I'd love to come. I think that's really cool. You would? All right. Well, that's on Tuesday night at 5. And then you bring a bunch of people from the library. Hey, I just want you to know I put this out to our library folks to see how many people love the animal shelter. They didn't know there was a ribbon cutting time. I brought them with me. You don't think I'm going to want to talk to you more? Come on, y'all. It's not hard. What I want you to walk out of here with is to recognize it is about relationship and communication and just getting better at that. And librarians, you all, the library is an interesting place because you all are very attractional to introverts who like people, but like people on their terms. Anybody fall in that category in this room? You like people, but on your terms. You come into my library and I can show you where certain things live. I can help you. But I don't have to come out there into that scary space where you live, right? Libraries are a wonderful place for awesome, introverted folks who really actually like people. That's what I find a lot of your staff to be. And you're a wonderful place for it. So the trick is you all find ways to find out what's important to me and then deliver it to me and then do it again and do it again and just build a relationship, because when the house gets on fire, and even if we don't see eye to eye, I'm not going to burn it down. I'm not going to turn you into a spectacle because you're my friend or you're my partner in this deal, okay? One thing we did, totally unrelated to you guys, but very related to this conversation. I was all about building trails and doing health and wellness stuff. And in Lexington, it's a beautiful place to live, but you couldn't get around without a car. You couldn't get around on a bike or as a pedestrian, or she just got hit, right? So I got hit while I was out running one day. So I decided we would start building trails and all this kind of jazz. And what's interesting is we had some people that were really in our camp that loved me and loved this. They were rabid supporters, all right? Then we had some people that were just totally neutral, like, yeah, that's an okay idea. I'm not against it. I mean, yeah, go build some trails, awesome. And then we had a few people that just were like, this is a dumb use of money. We shouldn't do this. Nobody uses it, right? Okay, there's always those. What you want to do in the same situation is whoever is rabid for you, keep them fired up in a good way. Not adversarial, keep them fired up and excited about the library and the community asset that it is and the value of that. Stoke that fire. Try and get the people who are against you into neutral if you can. Try to get them from being against you to just, okay, whatever, I don't really care, one way or the other, right? If you can get them to neutral, you've stopped the bleeding over here, okay? And you've diminished this number. If you can get neutrals over into your corner, that's awesome. But what I found, the way that we won and we got so much money and we moved the needle so much was we stoked the fire here, we moved some neutrals into this space, but we kept neutrals from going over here and growing this group. And we actually took some of these folks and put them over here. So you've got 3 categories for the library in your community. People love you, people, whatever, and people that are like, oh my gosh, we got to change the whole thing. Keep these people excited about what's going on. Keep these people either excited or neutral, and keep these people from burning the house down and try and just get them to neutral. Whatever it takes, just get them to neutral. And all of a sudden you'll have a winning strategy. Okay. So, I have, in the notes that Jean is going to send you, the very last page of the notes that you will see is a page that looks like this. Actually, so when you get home, you're going to have a page like this. And this is your roadmap, you all. It's going to be a place where you take all the stuff you did. This is where you can actually sit down and spend some time with it. But basically, it's a space where there's a lot of questions where you can really map this out. I would challenge you to start to do this tonight while the biscuit's hot and you still got, you know where your stuff is and your handwriting actually meant that and so forth, okay? But this is your blueprint. This is your roadmap for how you do it. I wanted to give you something that was the next step. I would challenge you to do this with a team to start putting this together with your team and really thinking about ways that you can build these bridges successfully. Okay? Now, before I say goodbye and tie a neat bow on this, what questions do you have? What's going through your mind? You can ask me anything, and I'll answer it if I can. Audience participant, I knew you would say something. You're my go-to.
The thing that I always find that when there's something I want or there's a problem, I always go with the problem, but with a resolution
Yeah.
to offer. And sometimes that really clears it down.
That's so solid what she just said, y'all. And if I could take that one step further, try and figure out 2 solutions to the problem. Walk in with a couple solutions. You know, don't you get sick of people that walk in that are problem finders? We got lots of problem finders in our world, right? They're like, hey, I just dug this problem up. I'm going to leave that with you. Going to be out looking for more problems. Not going to find the solutions, but I'm looking for problems, right? We got lots of problem finders out there. But when you're a solution provider, when you said, hey, I know this is a problem that we've got, but I've worked up 2 different ideas that might be solutions. Tell me what you think. I got a place to work from there, okay? Bring me 1 at least, but 2, wow, that says you really moved some dirt. What else? What else is on your mind? Yeah.
How do you handle like when, I have 8 different cities, so I have 8 different city councils, and of course I have enough fiscal court. I go to all 8 every month, I go to all the council meetings, I go off in fiscal court. They're all different, wanting different, like fiscal court doesn't want to do what Mount Washington's doing, it doesn't want to do what Philby. And even though that magistrate may want to do what the Mount Washington Council wants to do for that area, the rest of the magistrates don't want to because it doesn't deal with their area. So like, I'm trying to make them happy, and then make them happy, and then make
Yeah.
them happy, and
Yeah.
each of my branches are trying to keep up with it.
I think what you could do in that situation is, hey, find your faves in each one of those places, right? Find your 1, 2 favorite people and say, hey, Jay, can I take you to coffee? I need your help. I got to figure something out. I can't figure it out. Everybody wants to help, okay? People are inclined to help. Sit down with me and go, okay, here's the deal. You know I cover 8 cities, so you can only imagine, right? Like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought that you covered 8 cities. I didn't even know you did that actually, right? And if you sit down with me and go, how can I help you accomplish these things when there's these folks that are doing this, and these folks, there's all these competing interests, and I feel like I'm getting tugged. How can I do that? What's a way that you see I could actually help you or the community? And then shut up. Let them tell you. Wow, I didn't realize that was a problem. But if you come and say, here's my unique situation, I'm just curious how you would handle this. I mean, you deal with lots of constituents that pull you in lots of directions, but I don't live in your world, so I'm just curious. Could you help me with that? See what happens. Just try that with your faves, okay? Go to the people you know. Go to your cousin, your next door neighbor, whoever's that you have great relationships with, and start there. What else? Somebody else raised their hand. There's another one in the room. Yes, ma'am.
So I read that there were a lot of folks in leadership positions, more so in the baby boomer generation, so that the Gen X generation can't move into those leadership positions. But your information said that there's more in Gen Z or millennials.
Millennials are the largest generation in the workplace. So it may not be elected officials. And what's really interesting about that, this is a great tee up, you see a lot of political retreads. You see a lot of boomers that have lost relevance, that run again for office. And they reappear like 10 years after they stepped away because they're looking for relevance. And this is a place where they can get it because they can win a popularity contest. From a cohort standpoint, so let's take politics off the table. Right now, millennials make up the largest percent of the workplace. It's just under 40%. And Gen X is 36%, and boomers are like 32%, Gen Z is whatever. So the bottom line to it is, across the board, it is shifting. Boomers are retiring at this rate. Millennials are moving up, and they're the bigger generation. But what my point about Gen X is that we are firmly entrenched in leadership, as evidenced by who's in the room today. So you all represent more leadership within a library, and this room is stacked with a lot of Gen X. you'll probably see that in a lot of the leadership roles in your community. So that's my point. You know, the two gentlemen running for governor, whoever our governor ends up being, is Gen X. So if Bashir wins, Gen X. Cameron wins, Gen X. The last election was the same thing. Bashir and Bevan, both Gen X. So and it's kind of comical. You'll start to see the rhetoric. They'll start talking about levels, and they don't even know they're saying it. It's like, you guys have like the secret handshake. We'll all be all talking about. What else do you say? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to comment on that. I am Gen X, and every month I tell my board what my priorities are. So
Isn't that funny? Yeah. So, and if my wife were here and she was teaching, she would have said level probably 40 times already, because it's just in the DNA. And what's really cool, I call it the white Honda effect, meaning if you went out and bought a white Honda tonight, tomorrow you'd be driving around going, gosh, there's a lot of white Hondas on the road. Did they all go to the dealership last night? No. They were always there. You just didn't see them. You're very hypersensitized now to some of this stuff, and you'll start to see it in a big way. Okay? Yes, Courtney?
I'm just interested, I love what you're talking about moving somebody more neutral, and I'm thinking like across our state, about the role of conservative Christianity, as it intersects, with political beliefs, and neutrality for a conservative Christianism can be, it's lukewarm, which they don't lean into. And so pulling someone to a neutral space is almost like against their religion in some spaces. So is there, have you had any, have you seen anything like that happen? Do you have any advice?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we live in the Bible Belt, and there's a lot of that, and a lot of the challenge and clash obviously comes in those spaces. So when I say neutral, maybe what a better way to frame that for you all is, let's take the appropriate material piece and just sort of set it aside over here. It's kind of its own thing, okay? So let's put it over here. Neutral just means that I don't want to burn the library down, okay? I don't hate you all, right? I don't wake up and think, you know, those guys are doing things in a room in the basement somehow to wreck us or what. Neutral can mean I'm ambivalent towards the library. Like, I don't really think about you all too much. Like, you know, and that's an okay place to be. If you got some folks there versus here, that's better. This is a win, okay? And so I really believe, Courtney, as it relates to, let's just talk the material piece, and let's talk June. What I really think is the challenge of all of that is you guys have always been Switzerland. You know, in the community, you've always been the neutral convener. Like, who can hate the library? But now that's gone. And you're trying to navigate these really tricky waters, and you're trying to be, you know, you're trying to be neutral, and you're getting sucked into one side or the other. And so I think there's common sense in dealing with this, and then there's not. I think a lot of things are you don't have to go looking for the fight, is the bottom line, okay? The fight's going to come potentially to you, but you don't have to throw gas on that fire yourself, okay? Don't burn your own house down. So, yes, ma'am.
So how much of our focus should be on the state level government versus local level government? Should we even focus on the state level?
Lisa Rice had the best statement. She goes, I think the state's done as much damage as they can to us. I think they have. I really do believe and the reason why I'm even involved is I think every fight or every opportunity is at the local level. I really do. I think the more effective you are with the local folks, I always joke, you know, like you could be best friends with Mitch McConnell or Rand Paul, but they can't fix your stop sign. I can. I can pave your road. The guy or gal you want to know is your local elected official, because they can fix the road in front of your house, right? And so the situation that happened in Owensboro a little while ago, I don't know how much you know about it or not, but it was a really tough situation. And you know, so I'm talking to the director as that was ramping up and so forth and so on. And what I heard, I don't I don't know any of the players in the game, but through my questioning, this is what I heard and I saw emerging, was you have a brand new elected magistrate that November, so only a few months into the job, that came in and blew up the staff member, not the director, the staff member, in a very unprofessional way and so forth. So one of two things happened. Either that elected official found out about whatever was happening here and didn't like it and was going to take issue with that themselves, or they got blown up by some constituents and said, can you believe this? And they went in and had that situation. In either case, the elected official was in the wrong for how they acted, but they were newly elected. And when you're newly elected, it's a popularity contest. You're trying to learn like votes and how to say this, that, and the other thing, and your job is to pass laws and budgets, but yet I got sucked into this because my constituents said, go figure that out, or I said, I'm going to take this on. So what I heard was someone who did not have any real mileage on them yet to know how to do that job really well, and then came in and made the situation much worse than it probably could have or should have been. That's what I heard just over the phone, okay? So I tell you that story to say, I believe it's at the local level. I believe that you have to understand who's getting elected, and the fact that if I'm newly elected, I don't know where the bathroom is, really. I don't. And so I remember my first council meeting, and it felt like, playing pee-wee football and then getting thrown into a college football game or a professional football game. The speed at what was happening was just, I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? A little while later, a few months later, I'm totally understanding. The speed slowed down for me. I could make things happen and move it, and it didn't seem so fast. So I see that a lot of newly elected folks may come hard charging, not knowing, and just not being a professional elected official. What else? Yeah, yes, sir.
Fresh my mind, what exactly happened in Owensboro?
Oh, in Owensboro, there was during June. There was a material in the library that was inappropriate. It was placed in a place that was prominent, or people felt it was prominent. And this magistrate came in, house on fire, and couldn't find the director, so they just took the nearest employee and just ripped him in front of everybody. It just went off. And then that led to a big to-do at the board meeting. And the media got it wrong. They said the board meeting was going to be on this Wednesday night. So everybody showed up with pitchforks and torches on that Wednesday night, but it's actually the next Wednesday night. And so everybody was just in this chaotic state of frenzy, when that could have been handled a whole lot differently by that magistrate. Number one, I lay it at the feet of that person that just handled it poorly. But what my counsel was you should probably get with your board. This is what I was saying to them. I'm saying to you too, feel free to take it, and develop a policy of engagement. That if a member of the public can't just come in and berate a staff member, they have to ask for a meeting with the director or something like that. So my point to Aaron that night was, get with your board, call every member of your board now before this meeting happens, and get in lockstep so that when the board meeting happens, one of the agenda items is, how are we going to handle situations where someone has a complaint? How do we do that? We as a board feel like it should be, make an appointment with the director, and that can show a support there. Deal with that and have that as an action step. Does that make sense? Does that help? What, anything else? All right, let me talk about this. Gang, I love you guys. You guys do a tough job, and it's gotten tough, really tough now. This isn't what you signed up for, I'm sure, years ago. I know it didn't. But yet you're here, okay? And you're a leader, and you're in a leadership role with a huge community asset. And I want you to, like my mother said, let everybody know the value of the library. You got to do that one at a time. You got to do that a relaxed meeting at a time. Come out from behind the fortress wall. Start with the people you like. Start with the people you know, or the people that represent you, and just have relaxed meetings. Invite them in. just ask them a lot of questions about what's important to them. Build a strategy off of this blueprint with your team so that you can do that consistently. You got to do it over and over and over, okay? It's a partnership. You're in the same community, and I did not wake up trying to make your life miserable today. I promise you I didn't. But if my constituents are blowing me up over something, I have to respond to that, and I have to show a response. If I've got a wonderful relationship with you, I can handle that in a way that's very, very tamped down. If we don't have a great relationship, then I can make a spectacle of this thing because I got the mic and I control the budget. You can't win that fight, though. You don't have the mic and you don't have the budget. It's not your money. It's taxpayer money. I hate to break it to you. It is not your money. Last thing I'll say is you guys think about money very differently than elected people do. You hoard money because you're going to build a building one day. I'm going to hang on to it because we're going to need money one day. And when I see you got $400 million sitting over here in the corner because you're going to build a building one day, and we're trying to patch a hole in a budget year to year, and I'm $27 million in the hole because of deferred maintenance in Parks and Rec, and I see that you've got $27 million sitting in your account, guess what I think? They don't need all that money. You all, in the city of Lexington, they created a trash tax years and years ago before I ever got there. And that trash department has $47 million that they're sitting on that they can't spend. Too much money. They're buying new trucks every year. Can't spend it. It's a cash cow. $52 million of deferred maintenance in Parks and Rec was the real number. And I'm looking at them saying, they got a dedicated tax for trash and they can't even spend it all, and yet we're over here doing this. Many, many cities do dedicated taxes for all kinds of stuff. And if you hoard your money and you stockpile it, because one day you're going to go build a building, I'm probably going to come after that money. Or I'm going to say, you better justify the fact that you got $47 million sitting in an account. What are you doing? You think about money differently than we do. We build a year-to-year budget, okay? And that's why I say, you can help me most by helping me spend less money. Hey, we're building this new building and you can use it for all this great stuff. Stay away from my money, man. Don't touch it, okay? But you all think differently than we do. It's the difference between government and the business world, very different. If I make in my business $1 million and I spend $800,000 this year, I get to keep $200,000 for myself, do anything I want to with my $200,000. If I run a department in government and I got $1 million budget, I spend $800,000 of it, guess what? I got to spend $200,000 fast, or you're going to cut me to $800 next year. Different mindset when it comes to money, you all. Okay? But at the end of the day, I want you to walk out of here knowing whose money it really is. It's taxpayer money. Somebody had to go make that money. They had to earn it. Someone had to make money. When I teach kids about government, I always tell them, government doesn't make money, it takes money. And nobody has a problem with government until they realize that maybe they're taking too much and I'm not getting enough for it. What nobody wants is to go, wait a minute, you're taking all this money and I don't get any of that, or I'm not seeing any benefit from that. That's when people get ticked, okay? So what I'm telling you is be very cautious about how you think about your money, because it's not yours, it's taxpayers. I represent the taxpayers, so I might even encroach over there thinking those types of thoughts. So you want to talk about to me how you can use your all's assets to lower the cost of government. Show me how I don't have to spend as much on Parks and Rec like Courtney does all the time. That's one of her go-tos. Hey, look at all the stuff we did. You didn't have to spend it. And I get to beat my chest and go, look at how much money I just saved all the taxpayers. Yay me. And Courtney goes, yay him. Because he's not going to bust my chops. He's neutral at least. I got it. Right? So just realize it's just different thinking. You're not wrong, and they're not wrong. It's just alien culture, okay? So you've got to learn how to talk a similar language, so look for the connection. All right, last thing is this. If I get hit by the meteor tonight, and this is it, okay? I'm glad we captured it on film. But now you know me, okay? If there's a situation, if you're thinking strategy, if you're just like, hey, I got an idea, I want to bounce something off, This is why I'm working with KPLA. The bat phone is open. And I wanted you all to meet me so that you don't feel weird about calling or reaching out to Gene or Shannon and saying, hey, I need Jay's number, okay? I want to help you game some of this stuff out. And my goal is for the next year or 2 or 3 or however long that we start to build resources for you where we can take this and make it into little bite-sized pieces and micro-learnings so that you can have anybody you work with, anybody you hire, go through this type of training. Would that be valuable to you to have that for other folks back home? Okay, because that's what we're trying to do. This is just a start. This is the tour. And you guys are the first. So whether I see you again or not, I want to thank you for giving me a lot more than 8 seconds of your time. I'm done.